Good morning, everyone. Buttergate. BBC News is reporting Buttergate. Why are Canadians complaining about hard butter? Oh, those Canadians, those crazy Canadians. Probably because it's so cold in Canada, eh? Oh, man. I just think it's interesting. They're talking about the butter being harder than normal. This is news. This is news. This is not news. Okay, moving into actual news. Do you remember this leaked email in October? And I said, I'll read it and I'll come back to it every so often. Well, it's time to come back to it, I think, okay? So the roadmap and aim was set out by the PMO and is as follows. Let's have a look and let's think retrospectively about what's already happened since this email's come out. Phase in secondary lockdown restrictions on a rolling basis, color-coded, starting with major metropolitan areas, first and expanding outward. Toronto, York, Peel, Halton region, and outward, right? Expected by November 2020. Did that happen? November 11th was the lockdown. They were in gray in October 15th or something like that. And then November 11th was the lockdown. And then, excuse me, daily new cases of COVID-19 will surge beyond capacity of testing, including increases in COVID-related deaths, followed by the same growth curves expected by the end of November 2020. Complete and total secondary lockdown, much stricter than the first and second rolling phase restrictions expected by the end of December 2020, December 26th. Lockdown, we just went through 45 days of this, right? Reform and expansion of the unemployment program to be transitioned into the universal basic income program expected by Q1. I've long been saying, well, they haven't even done that yet. I said, they've still got time. They've still got time. They've still got time. Ho, ho, ho. They've got time. Here it is. Julie Dershowitz, and she's a Liberal, your MP for Davenport TO, has introduced, she's now tabled Canada's first ever legislation on a guaranteed basic income, UBI. Welcome to UBI town, right? Now the hard work begins to get Bill 273 through the House of Commons with support from all sides. Here is the reading, just very quickly.
Private member's business. Ms. Zarowitz, seconded by Mr. Easter, and I'm just going to check to make sure they're both online. Moves for leave to introduce a bill entitled An Act to Establish a National Strategy for a Guaranteed Basic Income. This motion is deemed adopted. The honourable member for Davenport.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. It is my absolute honor to introduce into this House the following private member's bill, an act to establish a national strategy for a guaranteed basic income. The summary of the bill is as follows. The enactment requires the Minister of Finance to develop a national strategy to assess implementation models for a national guaranteed basic income program as part of Canada's innovation and economic growth strategy. I think it is time that we find a 21st century solution to support Canadian workers and for all Canadians to have an equal opportunity to succeed and to contribute. I look forward to the debate and to receiving.
Right. So she carries on. We need a 21st century solution to support workers, tackle income inequality, spur innovation, and provide the stability for Canadians to succeed. I want to thank UBI Works. And then she lists a bunch of people, passionate colleagues, advocates, including blah, 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 blah. Interesting timing. Trudeau yesterday had a meeting with sleepy Joe Biden, and it's awkward. I'll show you the video of that. But let's look at what's next on our document that reads us the future, right? Here is, hold on, let me find the place. Expected Q1, Q2, 2021. That's right now. Enhanced lockdown restrictions, referred to as the third lockdown, will be implemented. Full travel restrictions will be imposed, including interprovincial and intercity. Expected Q2. That's what's coming. So are you ready for restricted intercity travel? We're going to look at airport travel and the fact that the police can't really stop you, but they'll fine you. So they're just going to pile fines on you. That's how they're going to get compliance with this, right? Anyway, so that's expected soon, right? Transitioning of individuals into the Universal Basic Income Program, expected mid-Q2. So they've announced it. Now, what happens next, right? Do they fast track it? Does our very long in the tooth, very experienced Rhodes Scholar of a finance minister, who's also the deputy PM, who also negotiated the USMCA badly, is she going to find a road to growth and prosperity in Canada with offering a universal basic income? Is that the plan? I'd love to see it. Does she have a magic red dress that gives her all the answers? Transitioning of individuals, back to this. Deployment of military personnel into major metropolitan areas as well as all major roadways to establish travel checkpoints, restricted travel and movement, provide logistical support to the area expected by Q3. Man, I said a little while ago. Now, this is just an introduced bill. This isn't fast track. This wasn't introduced by a cabinet minister. They're not saying we're starting this. This is just introduced. They have to debate it. They have to push it through, all of this stuff. I'm not trying to fearmonger with this, right? But it's right on schedule, isn't it? It's right on schedule, man. I don't see how ignoring the fact that it's right on schedule will help either. I think that it's interesting that it's right on schedule, and it seems like the more that happens, the more that people go, yeah, but isn't that normal? Like, that's pretty normal, right? It's not normal. Here is Randy Hillier, and he says, so please tell me or explain, why does our Liberal government put up with these communists, let alone appease them? This is the diplomat for China saying that maybe there might be retribution for that whole genocide declaration the other day, right? So the Liberal cabinet abstained. The rest of the government said, yes, there's a genocide. I said, this is probably a bad plan. This is probably a bad plan. He also says that the politicization of the Olympics is explicitly against the rules of the Olympics. Somebody tell Aaron O'Toole, right? Ruh-roh. Okay, here's the interview. It's kind of not hard to, I found it hard to understand the whole thing. Okay, maybe I'll find a specific point. I'll do the Olympic thing. Hold on. Okay, here he's saying, the interviewer said, should Canadians respect retaliation for this? And he says not in so many words. And then he says this.
And also I want to point out, because there's some part of the motion related to the Winter Olympic Games in Beijing. We firmly oppose that as well, because it demonstrates once again that some people here in Canada and in some other Western countries are politicizing the issue of the Winter Olympic Games. And that's also against the charter of the Olympics. And I think for Beijing Olympic Games, it's one clear recognition from the international.
So, and I looked it up. Yeah, Olympic Commission rules politicization of the games is my search results, and it says Rule 50 IOC. It is a fundamental principle that sport is neutral and must be separated from political, religious, or any other type of interference. Specifically, the focus of the field of play and related ceremonies must be on celebrating athletes' performance and showcasing sport and its values. There was an Olympics in Nazi Germany, right? Like this is known. Whoops. This is something that happened, right? There's lots of footage of Hitler watching doing the podium and all of that stuff, and there was controversy around that, politicization of the games then too. But this is an interesting parallel to then, right? And a lot of people have made a lot of parallels to us reliving the 1930s, right? Very interesting stuff. Okay, here's Justin Trudeau, and he's meeting with Joe Biden, right? Just logged on to meet with POTUS Joe Biden. We're going to focus on strengthening the partnership between our two countries and putting that bond to work to make life better for families, workers, and small business owners on both sides of the border. Stay tuned for more. Sure. Here's Trudeau. This is 37 seconds. It's very... He's yelling. He's on a video. It's kind of awkward. I don't know why he's wearing a mask. But he's talking, and he tries to have a dig at Donald Trump, like, welcome back to the fold of leadership, the United States. And he's talking about global warming issues. And I think that it's funny when they're talking about global warming issues, when we've got bad policies destroying small businesses in the short term, and they're saying, in 100 years, we might have a climate that's not so nice. Right? We might have a real big issue in 100 years. And people are saying, we wish that we could open our businesses. We wish that you'd focus on solving that problem. Hey, but no, he's not interested in that at all. Here we go.
As we move forward, there's a lot to rebuild. We're also going to talk about climate change. And thank you again for stepping up in such a big way on tackling climate change. U.S. leadership has been sorely missed over the past years. And I have to say, as we're preparing the joint rollout and communique from this one, it's nice when the Americans are not pulling out all references to climate change and instead adding them in. So we're really excited to be working with you on that. Lots.
Oh, he's such a terrible speaker. I mean, you can have an idea of where you want to go, right? You're taking people on a journey. Anyway, Justin Trudeau is wearing a mask so he doesn't catch the virus through a Zoom call. Our leader, right? Our leader, everyone. He's just so good, right? And so virtuous and so compliant with the rules. He wears masks during Zoom calls. I saw a Zoom call with a liberal, Dershowitz, actually. It's on her stream. And one of the people was in a mask there. And I thought, oh my gosh. My goodness. Anyway, Biden says he and Trudeau are doubling down on climate change agenda. Yes. Swing and a miss, right? Oh man, if only you could actually speak to things that your constituents are interested in hearing about, right? Here's Don Martin's latest, and he says, why a sleepy summit spells relief. The Canada-U.S. partnership roadmap ignores many potholes ahead. And it's got Joe and Trudeau, and yeah, like I said, they're not really addressing. It's like spending a lot of money and Guelph on safe injection sites that happen to double the amount of people who die of overdoses in a year. And instead of using that money to fix like potholes and, and I'm not saying that if you want to spend it on helping drug users get off drugs, then that's fine. But maybe using a program that actually helps with that and doesn't kill them. I mean, unless your goal is to kill them. Right? Like, I don't know. It seems like a bad move. It seems like a bad therapy. Here's the drugs. We're not going to judge you for doing them. Sure. Great. Fine. Whatever. Seems like an expensive way to kill a lot of people. Okay. And it just seems like, why? Why are we wasting the money? Right? Like, we've got this other problem that would actually benefit from the money being spent on it, right? Rather than ending up with dead people. Okay, anyway. Shame on Biden's family for doing this to him. Shame. This is Joe Biden talking about the two Michaels. This is Joe Biden asking China to release them. This is Joe Biden flubbing their names. Here we go.
Let me reiterate our support for the release of the detained in China, two Canadians, Michael Spavor and Michael Covering, Human beings are not bartering chips. Let me reiterate.
Sorry, microphone problems there. I agree. Human beings aren't bargaining chips. Joe Biden, This is a wild ride, eh? I have no idea what to make of any of this. I thought that the American people would be more upset with an election that had obvious massive holes in it, massive flaws in it, with a president like Trump being leaving office due to the court's refusal to look at any of the evidence. There's nothing else he can do, right? Anything else, he would have been called a dictator. But I thought that the American people would do or be more upset. And it seems like a really long time since Biden's been in office, right? Like, it doesn't seem like Trump's only been gone, 30 days or something like that? I don't know. This is a wild ride, though. To experience all of this, like with the impunity that they could just do everything that they've done, it's wild. It's wild. Anyway, moving into lockdowns. Roman Baber, who this guy is, he deserves a lot of respect. He deserves a lot of... this is bravery. What he's doing is not easy. Okay, I'll make sure. I hope people understand this. He says the lockdown is devastating the lives of young athletes and aspiring kids. According to Lisa McLeod, the OHL hockey proposal to reopen wasn't long enough. The NHL had 600 pages. Another example of foreign nation governments' efficiencies. Right, dreams being broken right now. Province shoots down the latest OHL return proposal. So this is, again. We need to get back to normal. I'm sick and tired of the pantomime of pretending that this is normal, pretending that we'll just get used to this. This is garbage. Throw this out. This is absolutely unbelievable, unwarranted. This is an attack on the citizenry. If you think back to Nazi Germany, they didn't put masks on their children. Okay, they didn't force masks on children. They didn't force masks on everybody. Do you know how dehumanizing wearing a mask is? This is tyranny by the government, naked tyranny. And I can't believe that people are just complying with it for the false hope of safety, because there's a lot of data that says masks don't really protect you against a respiratory virus. What happened to the flu? Okay. Anyway, regardless, they don't want everything to return to normal. And I'll show you that they don't want that. Here's Dan Kelly. And I said, Dan, nope, not legal. Banned by our charter. Anyone promoting this will be removed from office. Don't back this, Dan. This is a bad move. We demand a return to normal. I will not comply with vaccine passports. But Dan says, interesting video of what might be in store for Canadians and Canadian business owners months and months from now. Nope. But they're going to try. They're going to try. This is what they want. Okay. Israel leads the world in vaccinations per capita with nearly half of its population having received at least one shot, but its road to recovery is looking long and arduous. So they've got, I'll just mute this video here. They've got vaccine passports in stores and gyms and restaurants, etc. Like this living a life in lockdown is no life at all, and this is not appropriate. We've committed no crime. We are free people. We do not deserve to be locked in our homes without a trial, without being accused of criminality, without anything. We're healthy people, human people who should be allowed to live our lives and be able to earn money and open our businesses and not have the government pulling this crap. Here's the EU, Patrick Phillips. He's the doctor who was on with Dr. Gill and Dr. Kaur. He's got this thread. He says, on the 27th of January, the Council of Europe signed Resolution 2361, which states that vaccinations in EU member states should not be mandatory. Further, persons who have not been vaccinated may not be discriminated against in any way. This effectively stops the notion of vaccine passports. The resolution goes so far as to order member states such as Sweden to actively inform citizens of these rights. The resolution has been ignored by mainstream politicians and the media. The Nuremberg Convention consists of 10 points, and the first stipulates voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely necessary. But the question remains, is it really voluntary if you're not allowed to work, send the children to school, travel, or even visit the mall if you do not submit to this experimental vaccine? And that's the crux of it. They've called it a vaccine because there was a movement beforehand, the anti-vax movement, that seemed kind of kooky. And if you push anybody who has questions about this new vaccine, this untested gene therapy, which is not a traditional vaccine, if you have any questions like that, they can lump you into that anti-vaxxer crowd. They can say, you're kooky, just like they are. You should shut up and accept what we're giving you, right? And no, we have agency. We have body agency. It's long been litigated. There is a long history of people being able to say, no, you do not get to do that, and you don't get to remove my rights. You don't get to use, because that's using force to enforce their rules, and they don't get to do that to enforce a vaccine. That is not legal. And usually I can cite the legal thing, but the legal code, but this is the charter, I think. No, it's not. There's some specific language, and I can't remember exactly. I'm going to have to look it up now because I've talked about it. But there's some specific language that basically says, and it's probably going to be in the comments because you guys probably know what I'm talking about. But the specific language says, like, you can't use removal of XYZ rights to force people to get the vaccine. And I'm paraphrasing it terribly, so I'm going to move on. But there is precedent for you being able to say no. I think maybe it's the school board. The school board in Ontario, mandatory vaccines. Like, this is not meant in any way to make the people lose rights or access. If you choose to have an exemption, you're treated the same, basically, is what it says. That's the school board. Maybe I'm conflating that in my head. Here's another example of the parties and powers that be doing everything they can to kick decision-making down the road so they don't have to actually engage with the loss of the civil liberties that have happened during their watch, and the fact that there's no reason to continue this loss of civil liberties. We need to get back to normal. They're not interested in getting back to normal. Cam Guthrie, Guelph Mayor, wants to see downtown dining district return on weekends this summer, right? Weekends is a good time to drive downtown and park, and if the roads are all closed downtown, that's not so great for businesses, right? Very anti-business. And people who don't own business don't understand that. People who don't own business think, oh yeah, everybody loves being able to walk downtown and it's so nice. What a great atmosphere. Except the people with kids don't go downtown because there's no parking, right? And you can't walk a kilometer with a kid, right? So it's a very interesting policy that doesn't really end up helping a lot of the businesses that are in the downtown core, but it helps a lot of people. Like, Cam likes it. I think it's a nice initiative. I think it makes the city kind of nice, but it destroys businesses. And I mean, you have to balance that. The other part of that is transit. People who took transit, because the roads were closed, the people couldn't, or would often miss their buses and miss the connections and all of that other stuff. And not that was ignored, but when that was brought up on Twitter, the response was, sometimes we all have to sacrifice a little bit for the greater good. I was like, oh, come on. Come on. The European countries with the strictest lockdowns have come out no better. Yeah. Do you think that this has been better? Is there anybody who thinks that what has happened since last year, since St. Patrick's Day last year, has been better than if we had reopened everything after the lockdown and said never again? Or will we allow the government this much power? Wow, that was a crazy 2 weeks. We should end it now. We should end it now. We should end it now. This is well beyond it. This is well beyond time to say whatever danger there was has passed, and it's long past time to get back to living, because there is no reason not to. And they're not going to say that. They're not going to say that. They've spent too much capital on all the BS, and they're going to double down. Here's Davila, Toronto's top doctor, says cities' post-pandemic life may include some balance of remote work and in-person work. That's her telling you this is normal. Get used to it. We're not going back to normal because I've got lots of power, and no way to hold her accountable. No way to hold her accountable at all, right? Are there police at her house currently? This is interesting from Roman Baber. This is more COVID related. For 2 weeks to I'll let him say it, but it's from 2 weeks to flatten the curve to until we all get vaccinated, the moving goalposts, and Roman Baber highlights it well. So here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the government House Leader, almost a year ago, the Premier told Ontarians we need to lock down for 2 weeks to flatten the curve. 2 weeks turned into 2 months for most of the province, turned into almost 4 months for most of the GTA in my beloved city of Toronto. 4 months turned into a year. Flatten the curve turned into slow the spread. Slow the spread turned into stop the spread. And now stop the spread turned into until we all get vaccinated, we should stay home. It's been a year. A year of depression, of economic devastation, a year of missed cancer diagnoses and cancelled heart surgeries, a year of children and adults developing depression and anxiety. My city of Toronto is in ruins. North York is not recognizable. My question to the government House Leader, will the narrative become until we address all variants, until we get the Pfizer booster shot, until Moderna adjusts the formula? Question. When will you let us free? What is that parameter? And why should we believe you?
Why should we believe you? Why should we believe you? There's no reason to believe anything these guys say. In response, the government lists all the times that Roman Baber voted for the extension of the lockdowns because he was whipped to do so, right? Because the Conservatives, if he voted against it, he would have been removed from the cabinet, right? Ford doesn't. I don't know if that's a whipped. That's again using the cudgel of you will be punished in a specific way if you don't do what I say. But I can't officially punish you, but I'll remove you from cabinet, right? Here's the follow-up.
I've not heard a response. I've not heard a response because there is no exit strategy. There never was. The government keeps stumbling and fumbling along, adjusting the narrative to the politics of the day, governing by opinion polls. As most of the world is already open, a recent UK study concluded that there are already more than 4,000 variants of COVID-19. On January 12, Moderna said that its vaccine is only good for a year. It's open in Fortune magazine. Pfizer is contemplating a third booster shot. Dr. Steiny Brown, the modeling expert during the February 11th public health briefing, called some of the variants potential vaccine escapees. So why? Why is the government offering an unviable exit strategy again? Just 4 months more, just till the fall, just until we get the third shot. My question to the government House Leader, what is the exit strategy, and will he apologize for the millions of lives ruined by this government?
Question. Again, government House Leader to respond.
Mr. Speaker, I think the Minister of Health, the Premier, have been very clear on what the exit strategy is. It's to keep the people of the province of Ontario safe and healthy. That is why I am quite proud of.
Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And the damage these lockdowns is currently doing to Ontario, the business, small business, children's mental health, children's activities like OHL, and all of that stuff, not to mention the financial repercussions of that too. All of that is that doesn't keep people healthy or happy. That doesn't help at all. These people are lying, and they know they're lying. It's very frustrating. Okay. Presenting data ethically requires integrity and objectivity. It's clear Jennifer Kwan, who has blocked me for questioning her, has neither. Why else would she present every COVID-19 metric as daily counts, except for variants presented cumulatively to scare people? So, cumulative variant of concern cases in Ontario. Cumulative, that's funny. Daily, right? Daily cases, cumulative cases. That's pretty funny. And only meant for one purpose, and that is to scare you, right? Today, this is Karen Vecchio, so I've probably got that wrong. She's an MP for Elgin Middlesex, and she says, So that's federal MP. So she says, today Liberals filibustered for hours at committee to avoid having Prime Minister Justin Trudeau appear and give his reasons for proroguing shutting down Parliament last summer. When 4 parliamentary committees were investigating his decision to give a $543 million contract to the We Charity, a group which paid the Trudeau family hundreds of thousands of dollars, you remember that. The Committee on Procedures and House Affairs is tasked with considering the government's reasons for prorogation in a report the Prime Minister is required to table in order to enhance accountability. Nearly every expert witness who appeared to testify recommended that the committee hear from the Prime Minister directly, as he is the one ultimately responsible for the prorogation. Do you think the Prime Minister should come to committee and answer questions about the real reasons for his prorogation? Yes, he should testify. Oh, I can't believe there's 10% that say no. That's funny. 11%. Wow. That's wild. So interesting stuff, right? COVID spending, emails, it undermines our messaging. Aides in PM's office worried that shipping expired medical supplies to provinces would anger the premiers. Yeah, we got 11 million masks and we sent all 11 million out and we knew that most of them were faulty. So shipping costs on faulty masks. Anyway, regardless, I don't know if they actually sent them out, but this is an email. Hi, spoke with Andrew about this earlier today and it just came up on the call. Stryker is extremely keen to announce their sanitizing machines that we have ordered. Health professionals are concerned about this. It's a huge culture shift for folks. It also undermines our messaging about being able to get what we need. And PTS have indicated that they would use this as a last resort only. So any announcement of this needs to be very carefully done and should be led by health as broader approaches, in my opinion. Interesting, right? Like there's so much shaping that goes on behind the scenes, and some of that's necessary. Some of that's just conversation about like how are we gonna message this, and some of it is, and these are valuable people who see what the public would see. Like maybe this is not so good. Like maybe this isn't great. Maybe we shouldn't say that. At what point is it doing your job? At what point is it lying to the public, right? Like if the messaging could be better, said another way, is that inherently wrong? Everybody does it. I don't know, right? I don't have a good answer for that. But I think that there is a line where you cross where you're misleading people, and I think that probably that happens more than not. So, but I don't know how to check. I don't know how to bring that into check or balance, right? Like I think that that's just the tick and the talk of the left and the right, right? Sometimes the people on the left and whatever or right overtake, and the people do that too much. They take too much, and the political capital that they have, the trust that the people have in them is not there, and then they switch over, right? And then whoever takes over. It's the same tick and talk, and it's just messaging, right? It's all about messaging. It's very interesting. Anyway, regardless, here is this is talking about the effectiveness of our lockdowns and really what should we be doing? What does the data say we should do versus what we've actually done? And it says Kelly McFarland, this is a pretty amazing number. Of 21,500 COVID deaths in Canada, 16,500 were people in long-term care homes. So should we be closing restaurants or fixing the care home problem? Yeah, obvious questions. Travel restrictions. If you leave Canada and come back, you have to stay in a hotel or like a 3-day quarantine hotel if you fail their test. Now, it's not strictly legal, and they can't force you because you have a constitutional right to come back to Canada with no tests. But they will give you consequences, and they will fine you as much as they can. So this is interesting. The pair argue that since they're fully vaccinated, they should be able to quarantine at home immediately instead of having to spend 3 days in a hotel at an expense that could cost the couple up to $2,000. This is unbelievable too. I thought that the Canadian public would have a bigger problem with this. Is everybody just sitting back saying they're not going to do this? They're doing this. I don't know how to fight this. I'm fighting masking in schools at this point in time. I've got like 9 pots on the go, right? I don't know how to fight all of it, right? I can't fight all of it. I don't know how to do that. But like, at what point do people say, get gone? At what point does that TikTok go back and we go back to sanity? I hope that we have above board elections. I hope that we have elections that can be trusted. I hope that we do. I don't think that we do. I want to have those things. I want to have an election where the public is well informed with real data, factual data, not sciencey data, and makes a decision based on that. But like we're so far beyond that. Like we can't get the news to report the reality of COVID. With COVID and of COVID are kind of the same thing, conflated. So like we don't have a fair election in the strictest sense, because the education that the population gets is tainted at base, right? And again, like, good luck, right? Good luck. So with all of that said, how do you fix a system that's check and balance is completely broken? Because the check and balance is supposed to be public opinion, ticks away from the tyrants and back towards people who are going to meaningfully and dutifully carry out the governance of the nation, right? Like, move it forward for the people who live here, and not empty out the last, not pick them up by the ankles and shake them until every last penny falls out, right? Which is what it feels like our government's doing. And it's very interesting, because if the election is tainted, if the election isn't accurate, if the election is thrown together to look to be more of a facade, and really, I mean, Aaron O'Toole is going to do exactly the same stuff. He's going to do probably faster and worse. And people will say, "Oh man, wish that Trudeau guy was around," right? He was an idiot, right? So he didn't get much done. So it's very concerning, because the tick and the talk that's supposed to bring us back in line is not functional, in my opinion. And so we end up with travel restrictions that are unconstitutional but are happening anyway, and it doesn't look like anybody's going to get a court date anytime soon. Yay, it's been a year, right? They've been vaccinated. They have to stay in the quarantine hotel. Okay, hold on. At the airport, people are actually just leaving. So pay an $820 fine or $2,000 for quarantine and 3 days of your time in a hotel. Who knew you had a choice, right? People are just leaving. International travelers are walking out of Mississauga Pearson's airport and just taking the fines, right? Nothing anybody can do. Here's the CBC on Canada's broken quarantine hotel booking system means family could face a hefty fine. A Burlington, Ontario father says he's been calling the federal government hotline since Friday to book a quarantine hotel for his daughter who's flying home from Australia, but he just can't get through. Dave Buttram says he was placed on hold 5 times over the weekend and was disconnected each time after the 3-hour mark. As of Tuesday, he hasn't had any luck. Now he's worried his daughter may face a hefty fine for violating the government's Quarantine Act. Actually, it's less than what you'd pay for just going to the hotel. Take the fine, man. There's other consequences, though. There's other consequences. John Iveson says mandatory quarantine is a good idea, poorly executed. It's not a good idea, poorly executed. No, it's not. It's stupid. It goes against our basic charter rights, John. Figure it out, buddy. And I said nothing is good about this idea. Nothing. There's nothing good about this idea. Even if it's meant well. Like, even if we really mean it, we really mean that... we really mean well with this. We really mean it's just for your health and safety. It's bullshit. It's bullshit. There's nothing that says that it's for your health and safety. Anyway, Joe Fokker is replying to Ezra Levent, and he says, I arrived in Canada today, refused hotel quarantine, but agreed to home quarantine, went to board my flights from Toronto to Vancouver, and was put on a no-fly list, kicked off the flight. Consequences for not doing what you're told. Here's another one. Did you watch this video? If you travel and go home and spread COVID-19 and the person dies, you pay $1 million. And as if they could prove it. This is City News reporting this. I was like, I couldn't find that in the article. I was going to read you the article, but I'm just going to let you listen to this. This is interesting. Here we go.
Stopping anyone from leaving the airport who refuses to go to a hotel, but tell me that Health Canada officials will be following up. Now, you could face a fine of up to $750,000 or could end up in jail for up to 6 months. Now, if you travel into Canada, defy the quarantine orders, you bring COVID with you from abroad, and someone gets sick and directly dies as a result, that gets bumped up to $1 million. Now, as of right now, there are 6 pre-approved quarantine hotels.
Wait, where is he getting this million? I'm going to have to look this $1 million thing up. Is that just fear-mongering for City News? $1 million, right? Our rise in inflation is not due to an overheated economy. StatsCan revises core inflation upward, backtracks on new methods. Okay, this is a bit of spending news. I think that this is kind of funny because in this, they say they've changed the way they calculate inflation. And the way they calculate inflation is they removed the volatile things, like gas and food. Have you been to a grocery store lately? Like, my food bill for the week used to be $150, $175. Now, $260 easy. Easy, maybe more. And I'm not eating that much more. Several key measures of inflation were higher in January than previously reported, StatsCan said Monday, after backtracking on a methodological change that had painted a more mild picture of inflation only 5 days ago. The sudden revision surprised economists, causing some to question whether StatsCan had an accurate picture of inflation. The change was made amid growing concern about higher than expected inflation, which is driving bond yields up and sent jitters through the market. The average core inflation rate, a combination of three inflation measures closely watched by the Bank of Canada, was on 1.8% in January, StatsCan said Monday. That's up from a rate of 1.5% it reported last week, and materially closer to the Bank of Canada's 2% inflation target. Overall consumer price index inflation for January remained unchanged at 1%. StatsCan released its unusual revision less than a week after it introduced a new methodology for calculating the three core inflation measures: CPI common, CPI median, and CPI trim. The three measures remove the most volatile elements of the consumer price index, such as food and energy, to provide a better long-run picture of inflation. Yeah, just don't count that food. Don't worry about the food or energy. Has your energy prices changed at all with the carbon tax? Don't worry about it. It doesn't count for inflation, okay? The change introduced last week caused a notable downgrade in CPI median and led to a lower average core inflation read for January. Within 2 days, however, the agency had backtracked on the change after receiving feedback from the Bank of Canada and private sector economists. We have determined that more time is required to properly assess the impacts of the proposed methodological changes, StatsCan said in an email to more than 20 economists on Friday, and seen by the Globe and Mail. The email apologized for the inconvenience that this may have caused your organization. While StatCan has returned to a more familiar way of calculating core inflation, the back and forth has created confusion. We're now left largely in the dark on what core inflation is and reliant upon if and when StatsCan publishes a revision to its revised methodology that they just retracted. Derek Holt, Vice President of Capital Market Economics at Bank of Nova Scotia, wrote in a note to clients. When it does so, it will have a rather large task at hand in terms of convincing the street that they got it right this time. In the meantime, the issue plays to the fake data crowd that view inflation figures skeptically to begin with. Now, I want to make sure you understand. I'm not saying that the way they're calculating data today, like the wonky way that they just repealed, is that they were taking out food and energy. The way they always calculate inflation takes out food and energy. Okay, this is what they do to reduce the volatility of the inflation rate, because energy changes a lot. It's like watching a stock market ticker, right? I'm not justifying it. I'm saying that they're getting it wrong. Maybe they need a better way to measure that tracks the volatility as well. Like what? Maybe just track the volatile elements too, and like put them as a shadow graph, right? Volatile elements, whatever, and then you can make your own mind up. But if they don't track it at all and it doesn't count, like that's an interesting way to do things. I don't think that's helpful. I don't think you look at that data and go, okay, ignore the food and the energy. And I don't know the particulars about exactly what the methodological change is, like the specifics of it, but I wanted to be clear that when they rate these, when they talk about these three things, that's supposed to take the volatility out, not the methodological change that we're talking about here. Okay, I think that's clear. Moving forward, Notley wants to spend $3 billion in surge funding to support Alberta's healthcare system. What's a little bit of money, right? Why not? We got money. We got lots of money. We could just go to the bank and we type in some numbers. We put a couple zeros. You put a couple more zeros. All sorts of money comes out, right? Super easy. We're the government after all. We want $3 billion of those dollars, please, says Notley. The problem is Jason Kenney's got some kind of game, and I don't know what that is. And Alberta sees that game, and they don't like it. They're looking for PST in Alberta, which is that's not so good, right? That's not so good. That's mismanagement. And I think that's, Ontario pays a PST and they don't seem to mind all that much. Like, why not charge Alberta, right? Why not? So here we are, right? And Rachel Notley's, I think that this is all in line with that, right? To enable that spending, we've got to enable the needed spending on the healthcare. This is what Dalton McGuinty sold to Ontario in 2003. I believed it too. I was like, no new taxes. He swore an oath. But it was the whole thing. We need no new taxes except this healthcare tax. It's $70. And once we do this, no problems after that. Yeah. And here we are. And Gerald Butts, he knew, right? He knew. Anyway, regardless, it all happened, and it's all an excuse, right? The reason that they can sell it is because it's healthcare, right? With this needed tax, if you're a mom or if you're somebody who knows a mom and cares about the kids, then they're going to right in there. That's what they use. That's what they use. Oh, we've got to take care of the healthcare, right? And wild. Here is James Lindsay, and he used to write. He got Mein Kampf published under changing some specific things, but a rewritten Mein Kampf published in literary journals, and very interesting guy. And he's on critical race theory at this point in time. He says, read the whole letter if you can. The Chinese American Citizen Alliance of Greater New York has explicitly denounced critical race theory as a hateful, divisive fraud. Asian Americans are a minority group discriminated against by CRT and are expected to carry water for it. Very interesting. I've been talking about critical race theory and how it's being implemented in our school boards, and our kids are being subject to it in schools. Black Lives Matter, Black Brilliance, all of this stuff. Highlighting race when race shouldn't be highlighted. We don't need to, you don't have control over your race, right? But you have control over your actions and who you are and what you do. And it used to be that we were judged by our actions and who we were and what we did. And now it is your race and generational guilt and all sorts of crazy stuff, right? And this is impacting people, and that's all part and parcel of critical race theory. And they use the schools to cement that in our children's minds, and it's wild. It's absolutely wild. This is a story I talked about with Greg yesterday on Speaking Moistly. I think this is crazy. They're using this death of an old woman and an old man to fearmonger about COVID. And it's just not appropriate. It's just sad. It's just sad what's happening to us. And I can't believe, I'm going to end on this one. I can't believe the NDP are taken seriously as a federal party at this point in time. Have they fully collapsed yet? Like, Jagmeet Singh is pushing very socialist policies, and this is what they're putting out. Like, this is NDP. NDP intercepts early draft of Biden-Trudeau meeting agenda. You won't believe what we found. And it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm not even going to read through it because it's just stupid. Like, this isn't a political attack. This is like, this is just stupid. This is maybe an intern joke that gets like thrown in the garbage and collected up after, and like, don't let anybody see this, idiots. This is not something a serious political party puts out. They should be ashamed of themselves. This is ridiculous. It's not even good. It takes far too much reading to understand. Like, this is not a meme. This is like, it's just bad. It's just bad. Anyway, the misses that our leaders are consistently landing on, and it seems like, they just throw things at the wall and see what sticks, right? They try and talk about anything but the really important, impactful things like charter violations at the airport, right? That's something that they should be talking about. But instead, the NDP is focused on the bilateral meeting between Trudeau and Biden, and like attacking both of them. Like, at one point, I'm pretty sure Jagmeet Singh would support Biden. Like, I don't know. It's just garbage. It's just garbage. Anyway, that's enough out of me. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co, and have a wonderful. One quick show note, I suppose. I may have some intermittent website issues the next couple of days. I have to move some servers around, just balance. My traffic is getting bigger, I guess, so I have to upgrade my servers. So if you come to one of my websites, nobody's taking me down. I'm just doing some work on it. So, but they'll be back up shortly. It's just I'll move them over a server. It'll probably take like 10 minutes, but still, if you ever are coming to my website in the next couple of days and it's down, that's me. Okay. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful.